All right, some updates on how the conservative news media is trying to help along insurrection part 2. Oh, Lord. All right, let's go.
So, folks, what I have for you in this one is something I am overjoyed to bring you because it is a rundown of an entire afternoon, really a day's worth of freakouts this Sunday, this beautiful Sunday, where old Donnie and his right.
It's raining. It's raining and it's chilly and my leg hurts. I don't know how beautiful this Sunday is. Let's go.
Media buddies continue to lose their mind over the Tuesday arrest. Like, that's what's happening right now. And what I have is not only the freakouts, but we're also going to tear down piece by piece the BS arguments they make as they sob on air, as they sob, shedding tears, makeup everywhere on Fox because of this, saying they can't do this to our beloved King Trump. They can't do this to him. But in reality, all it is a little bit of justice finally being served. And then we'll talk about how Donald Trump himself is flipping out at Mar-a-Lago so insanely that it's interrupting everybody else's lunch and dinner in the most hilarious way. But we start with maybe the dumbest single argument in this entire thing, although it's probably the least insane couple of clips I'm going to show you in this video, which is that all of this is to protect Hunter Biden.
Do you have any comment about Trump potentially being indicted on Tuesday?
Well, it's very odd that this would come out just the very next day after I revealed bank records, which showed that the Biden family, the president in particular, hasn't been truthful with respect to his family receiving payments direct.
Right. It's all about your timing, right? You couldn't possibly have anticipated that the grand jury was reaching the end of their case and that they had already been talking for 2 weeks about coming pretty close to an indictment at this point, because they had already invited him to be interviewed in the case in front of the grand jury. But I'm sure that their timeline has something to do with you and not the other way around, right? No, you didn't happen to try and drop that to distract away from this grand jury investigation, right? Like, that couldn't possibly have happened, right?
From the Chinese Communist Party, so it almost looks like it's an effort to detract, but at the very least, it's another example of two-tier system of justice. Look, we've been looking into these classified documents. We saw the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago for one set of supposedly mishandled classified documents, but yet Joe Biden's had at least 5 different locations of mishandled classified documents, and they give him days and days to go in and clean up with his attorneys. So this looks to me like it's another example of a two-tier system of justice at the DOJ.
Oh, you guys are all theater. It's really sad. It's such a waste of our taxpayer money. It's such a waste of time. It really is. You're investigating a private citizen. Hunter Biden has no position in the administration. Did you want to investigate Melania Trump or Ivanka or Don Jr. or Eric or the one that everybody forgets about? Who's that? Tiffany? Because some of them, at least, actually did have, direct roles and relationships with the White House in which they were able to get a lot of money off of that relationship. So, I mean, like, I don't know. What's your point here? Hunter Biden, you're talking about something that predates Biden's time as president. I guess you might be talking about something when he was VP, but there was no direct, like, you still have yet to actually connect this to Joe. Like, he didn't have a connection to it. So whatever his son is working on business-wise, that's different. I know you want to connect it, but you haven't.
So, Congressman, let's go through through more on this investigation into the Biden family's business dealings and to the expected Trump indictment this week is the House Oversight Committee Chairman, Congressman James Comer. Congressman, thanks very much for being here this morning.
Good morning.
Do you have any comment about Trump potentially being indicted on Tuesday?
Well, it's very odd that this would come out just the very next day after I revealed bank records, which showed that the Biden family, the president in particular, hasn't been truthful with respect to his family receiving payments directly from the Chinese Communist Party. So it almost looks like it's an effort to detract. But at the very least, it's another example of two-tier system of justice. Look, we've been looking into these classified documents.
That was some poor editing, Krista. You shouldn't have had the clip come up so quickly afterwards if that was going to be your teaser clip. Because who the hell wants to hear him say that twice? Like, he's so annoying as hell.
We saw the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago for one set of supposedly mishandled classified documents, but yet Joe Biden's had at least 5 different locations of mishandled classified documents, and they give him days and days to go in and clean up with his attorney. So it just looks to me.
No, they actually, Biden, Obama, Pence, everybody else involved, where they collected documents, cooperated fully. Donald Trump hid the fucking documents and kept saying, oh yes, I've given you everything, and didn't actually give them everything. That's why he had to be raided. He had to have an FBI raid because he wasn't being honest. He was hiding those documents.
Like it's another example of a two-tier system of justice at the DOJ.
So, Congressman, let's go through some of those bank records. This is really the first batch of bank records you were able to get because they've been stonewalling you. Are there more?
There are many more, Maria. This is one deal. We think there are as many as 11.
This is so incredibly disturbing. Do you think there's a coincidence that as soon as James Comer comes out and exposes those bank records, that suddenly Trump is going to be indicted? I mean, you're just talking about this soft approach from Joe Biden to China. We're constantly asking, why? Why not protect America? Is it a coincidence now that Trump is going to get indicted on Tuesday after these bank records were revealed last week?
You know, for those of you who watch Fox News, because I don't ever, unless it's clipped like this by a progressive commentator, do you ever wonder why you're so mad all the time? Because y'all are. You're mad all the time. And it's because of this kind of shit that's going into your head every day. This nonsense of distrust and conspiracy theories, and George Soros is running the world, right? Right? The lizard people theories and QAnon and all of this stuff, right? Do you ever at some point consider your mental health for watching Fox News and how it's making you angry?
Well, I don't really believe much in coincidences, and so I do think that I think that it's important what Congressman Comer is doing, and it's a way for the American people to really find out what's happening, and I hope that effort continues. I think that it will.
That is insane. That is dumb. One of the dumbest things I've ever shown you. Right. The idea that anyone actually cares about Hunter, like outside of the right-wing media bubble where he's their obsession, right, is laughable, is extremely laughable. And this idea that you would launch a charge against Donald Trump based on the need to protect Hunter, even though that's a federal thing, and Alvin Bragg is doing New York stuff, and Biden lives in Delaware, at least that's where most of the stuff is alleged and all of this, it makes no sense. All they're trying to do is gin up any reason they can to avoid talking about the facts of the case. Because when you talk about the facts of the case in an honest way, you come away with the idea that while these aren't the most serious crimes, they're not. They are definitive crimes, and Donald Trump definitively did them. And if you want to try to have...
Well, even that, the bigger deal is look at how fucking overblown they got over what is potentially going to be a misdemeanor. It might be a felony, but these are the least serious crimes that he's facing right now, and these folks are ready to go to DEFCON 5 or whatever, however it is. They think that they need to start a civil war to defend this criminal, and that's what he is. He's a criminal, and yet these people are like, okay, we're going to be his news outlet. You know what? I think maybe Fox News is just realizing that they're going to probably be bankrupt pretty soon after the Dominion case.
An edge debate about, felony, misdemeanor, blah, 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 blah. We could do that, but that would force them to admit the truth. That Donald Trump did some kind of crime, and it's just a question of how much of a criminal a-hole this guy is right now. And that's a losing conversation for them. But it gets even worse as they not only try to suggest somehow that this is like the darkest day in American history, but also that this exposes the left for not caring about black people and poor people.
Here's the cost, by the way, of this singular obsession politically for those on the left with Donald Trump. Life isn't always an either or game, but there's finite resources. So you're a prosecutor's office, right? And you only have so much time, you have only so much energy. And Alvin Bragg has prioritized this, clearly, and he has deprioritized, for example, putting criminals back on the street with bail reform. So,
okay, he's not a beat cop, right? Like, he's not going to be the one, like, going into the neighborhoods and searching for, people that are committing crimes in some of these poor neighborhoods or whatever. Like, that has never been his role. He's a prosecutor. Nobody in the DA's office is going to do that. These are two separate things entirely. That's going to be NYPD. So how do you feel the NYPD resources are being taken away from the neighborhoods? I mean, other than the fact that you and Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Kevin McCarthy are inciting a riot to be on Tuesday. Right? So doesn't that kind of sound more like you are the people wasting the resources and tying up the NYPD to protect the public from a dumbass who cheated on his wife and then paid out hush payments so that he could protect his campaign? It sounds more to me like you're the one wasting the resources by your behavior here, rather than trying to properly inform the public to please stay safe, stay sane, don't stockpile weapons, because I've already seen a video today about how the gun sales have gone up because they're stockpiling weapons now. How about you stop stoking the fire? How about you just let him face justice and don't try and encourage his base to do something stupid again?
which, let's just play it out for a minute, has a disproportionate impact on minorities and people in lower socioeconomic, high crime areas. Okay? So let me ask you the question. How many black lives?
Look at what they're doing. Oh, here's a black guy. Here's a black guy. Right? Nice. Oh, Fox, you're so subtle.
Have you sacrificed under a higher crime city with increased murder rates to devote a limited number of resources to the priority of pursuing a weak case against Donald?
They only got one black guy. That was the same guy in every picture. That's your token, huh? Okay, let's go.
Donald Trump.
Yeah.
How many black lives was this political stunt worth?
What you learn from the left is that they don't really care about black lives or the working class or the poor. This is a George Soros-funded DA. And he has to pay his master back. And this is exactly what George Soros and so many of those radicals on the left want to have happen.
I'm sorry, but how is George Soros responsible for this? You guys are so fucking crazy with your conspiracy theories. It's so weird, too, that it's like on an actual nationally syndicated cable channel that you do this bullshit. This should be illegal. This should be illegal. That you're doing this. This is so crazy that you're putting out an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory about lizard people and New World Order on a nationally syndicated news network. You guys are so fucking crazy.
Donald Trump. They want to put an end to him. George Soros, a globalist, no question that Donald Trump and his ideas, which are now being embraced by everybody who claims to be wanting to run for president, those are threats to that globalist agenda. And so they think that this will stop seeing the pictures that we may get to see this week of Donald Trump, potentially in handcuffs. They think it will stop him. I'm not so sure that it will have that impact.
We'll have Mark Levin coming up on the show in about 1 hour to talk about this. We can talk to him about what he thinks the fallout politically will be.
Again, it's this ridiculous argument. Absolutely ridiculous argument. I understand, yeah, they're right in the most technical of senses. There are limited resources. So it is true that Bragg, in a sense, has to prioritize as an office which cases they do and don't take. But this idea that simply because they're investigating Donald Trump, they're letting other crimes go by is ridiculous. 100% ridiculous. It's a massive office with thousands of employees, and not all of them do the same kind of criminal analysis. So of course, there are people dedicated to looking after robberies and break-ins and violent crime and things like that. But there are also people dedicated to looking at white-collar crime. And they can't necessarily just shift off one another. So this idea that you could take the person investigating Trump and have them go look into a broken window down on the street is laughable, because they're not the same sorts of crimes and investigations. And
also the DA's office doesn't do that, Krista. That doesn't make any sense. That is police work. That's detective work. That is not something that the DA's office does. The DA is in the courtroom and does the prosecutions. And those get scheduled. And just because you might have certain things on the schedule doesn't mean that you can't schedule time to do the other cases too. It's not, I haven't heard that they have some sort of case pile up in New York that's like so extensive that they can't get everything done,
charges. They just want to make this look like the Democrats are choosing this over other things, when in reality, for the last few years, while all of these investigations have happened around Trump, the Democrats have achieved far more than Trump did in his 4 years in office, and all Republicans have done with their investigative power in Congress is waste people's time. Yep. But it gets even crazier. We shift to Newsmax for a little bit. We'll come back to Fox and then Trump again. But we shift back to Newsmax, where one of Trump's lawyers says he will win the presidency from prison.
Criminal prosecution.
Hold up. You can't just say one of Trump's lawyers. This is Alan Dershowitz. Yeah. This is somebody who's already in trouble for his affiliation with Jeffrey Epstein. And let me just explain my connection here. So, when I was sexually harassed in 2018, Lauren Steiner called me the night before I printed an article and went public with my story about how I had been sexually harassed by the chapter leader of Our Revolution Costa Mesa, Tim Johnson Cotran. And she tried to get some information from me. She tried to discourage me from printing it. The very next day, she posted pictures of herself having lunch with Alan Dershowitz. So here's a couple of different things that she printed. This is the one that she printed the day I printed my article, the day after she called me. Alan Dershowitz was right where I thought I'd find him at the Chillmark General Store. He said he would sit down for an interview with me and that I had a good case for false arrest. She had gone up to the state capitol, and it was like a civil disobedience sort of thing. It was pretty minor anyway. So the idea that she needed to speak with Alan Dershowitz about this is pretty ridiculous, because as somebody who has been involved in a lot of various civil disobedience type actions, she would have already known this. This is like a fake answer. He said Thomas Paine was a citizen journalist who did not need a press credential. I don't even know how that relates to you, Lauren, but whatever. And then when Epstein was arrested, so I was just chatting with my childhood friend who went to the Dalton School. Not only did she know Jeffrey Epstein, she went on one date with him in the 80s, about 10 years after high school. He took her to see one of the Rocky movies. Nothing happened, and they became friends. They would run into each other in Manhattan and Palm Beach. She remembered he liked Danish models and was engaged to one. He put his Danish girlfriend through med school, my friend recalls. She has no specific recollections of what he was like, except that he was arrogant and he went to bed early every New Year's Eve. Laugh out loud. That's nice. That's nice, Lauren. That's nice, Lauren. Just trying to humanize Jeffrey Epstein for y'all. Okay, let's get back to this.
But I have to tell you, even if he is indicted, he will be indicted. In New York, you can indict a ham sandwich. And in New York City, you can convict a ham sandwich because the jury pool is so unfair. But if he is indicted, even if he's convicted, he can run for president. There are only 3 criteria in the Constitution. Congress can't change. 3 criteria is 35. He's 35. The second criteria is he didn't fight in the Civil War, and I don't think it can be proved that he actually fought for the South in the Civil War. The third...
No, the 14th Amendment means that you could not have participated in an insurrection or aided and abetted for an insurrection. And that is what happened to Alan.
It's the most troubling for him. He has to have been born in the United States. And after what he said about Barack Obama, lied about him not being born in the United States, it might come back to haunt him because they were both born on islands outside of the United States. So Barack Obama was born in Hawaii and Donald Trump was born on Long Island. So maybe there is a plausible claim that he wasn't born in the United States. Obviously, I'm joking. And those 3 criteria are clearly met.
Yep, you're hilarious.
And he can run for president from prison. He can even serve as president from prison.
Wow.
So, Professor Durst.
Again, it's truly unhinged stuff. It's truly unhinged. I have no doubt in my mind that the Republican Party will...
That's your boy, Lauren. That's your boy. Trump can run government from prison like a mob boss.
So low that they will do anything. But I really doubt that Trump would win in prison. This idea is ridiculous. They're really coping hard, guys. They're coping so hard right now because their boy is getting charged. He's getting indicted in like a matter of hours, basically. At least that's what he's saying. And it's going to happen. And it's not good for his ultimate political career, even if it helps him in the GOP nomination. And so they're trying to cope. And it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But here's the worst one. And here's where one of Trump's biggest backers, biggest supporters, has a freak out of freakouts, crying about his little guy going to prison.
So what? So why do they keep looking at it? Well, because it was paid for by a third entity that used corporate money. So what? Who cares? He didn't pay for it out of his campaign, Donald Trump. So there's no question of the misuse of campaign dollars. Here's what they're saying. They're saying, okay, misdemeanor statute of limitations has run. State felony statute has run. We can't make a felony case anyway because it's not a felony. We have to have an underlying obstruction. So we'll look at federal law, which is not even the jurisdiction of a local DA. And federal law says what? Federal law says you can't expend money, campaign law, for the purpose of influencing an election of this sort this way. But what else does it say? However, if that money is used and it has other purposes as well, That is, it's not just a campaign, somebody's embarrassed or somebody doesn't want to get information out or whatever it is, then it's not a crime. So this thing isn't a crime from process.
I have a feeling like a lot of these people have to drink pretty heavily to get through the kind of shit that they say on TV. Because influence, he didn't say influencing, he said influencing.
From substance, in state law, in federal law. What's happening here is they're using the law the way they use the Constitution to try and destroy the law and destroy the Constitution. What would you expect from a radical left-wing legal bomb thrower who's inserted into this position by George Soros?
Exactly.
Notice they're all Democrat investigators, and they're all Democrat jurisdictions. New York.
How are you guys all tying this back to George Soros? How are you doing that? Does he like donate to the DA's office in New York? Because I don't think that's probably one of the areas where he donates. How are you tying this back to George Soros? You guys are so fucking weird.
City, Atlanta, Washington, D.C. I mean, this is outrageous. And let's move on. Because I hear some people say, no, wait a minute. This case is an abomination, but
this is absurd. Absurd. This idea that like everything's being weaponized against Trump is ridiculous. It's one of these lies they keep saying.
Yeah.
Everything is the opposite. Donald Trump has had things weaponized on his behalf to silence his enemies when he was in power. And frankly, even since he's been out of power, the system has bent over to protect him.
Yeah.
We've already talked about how like things have been moving too slow. How Bragg initially didn't even charge him. If anything, all of these people that are being called witch hunters against Trump, if anything, have been too soft. Have been too soft on Trump. Not too hard, too soft.
Yeah. They've been extremely careful because of the insurrection. They want to make sure they have crossed all their T's, dotted all their I's. They want to make sure that their cases are spotless at this point because they know that he does this sort of bullshit, that he is going to incite violence, and that's exactly what he's done this weekend.
This is why Trump is freaking out, because for Trump, equality is actually injustice. For him to be treated as equal to everybody else is the biggest injustice of the world. And he had one of those most vile freakouts on True Social today when he said, I find it very hard to believe, and again, all caps is Trump denoting screaming. I find it very hard to believe that a racist Soros-backed DA who lets murderers and drug dealers and others walk free and who has presided over the biggest violent crime wave in the history of the NYC is using the power of his office to persecute, indict, and prosecute a former president of the United States for no crime. Witch hunt never ends, but we will make America great again. And you can see it there.
Oh my God. And keep in mind that the prosecutor is black. He's doing this on purpose because he is a racist, and he has been prosecuted in the 70s for racist policies. And we saw it throughout his term as president. We've seen it throughout his life. I mean, the fact that he came after Obama for the birth certificate, and he was, he's constantly been demonizing minority groups. And yet he's going to try and call the black prosecutor a racist? Shut the fuck up, you whitey. Come on. Oh my God, even.
He's saying a couple things. Unprecedented crime wave means you shouldn't investigate the president. When in reality, crime is already dropping from pandemic levels. Crime is significantly lower in New York than it was generations ago. And critically, if there's a crime wave in places like New York, a lot of the time it has to do with white-collar a-holes like you, Donald.
Yeah.
So your buddies can freak out, but it's all because they know we're right and you guys are wrong.
Wow.